Sometimes the closest brushes with death aren't felt in the moment. They come years later, in a flash of chilling understanding that changes everything. It was the summer of 1974. The air seemed alive with a vibrancy only this season could bring, its warm breezes carrying the scents of wildflowers and pine. Emma and Jake, both in their late 20s, were caught in the thrill of their engagement and the endless possibilities that stretched before them. For as long as they'd known each other, the forest had been their retreat. "Nature doesn't ask anything of us," Jake often said, a sense of awe softening his voice. Emma always agreed, though she sometimes felt the woods carried secrets far deeper than they let on. This trip was no different. At least, that's how it seemed at first. The Cascade Mountains beckoned with their towering evergreens, familiar trails, and the promise of solitude. The drive was long but filled with easy conversation, the kind only two people deeply connected could share. When they finally arrived, the trailhead greeted them like an old friend, the forest enveloping them in a familiar embrace of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. By the time the sun began to set, the sky had transformed into a canvas of gold and crimson, its beauty almost surreal. They found a small clearing near the trail and pitched their tent, the earthy scent of moss mingling with the cool evening air. "This place is perfect," Jake said, his voice brimming with contentment as he stood back to admire their work. Emma nodded, though a flicker of unease stirred within her as the shadows deepened. Night descended swiftly, wrapping the forest in a cloak of impenetrable black. The rhythmic chirping of crickets and the soft rustle of leaves gave way to an unnerving stillness, broken only by the crackle of the campfire. Emma and Jake sat close to the flames, the flickering light casting dancing shadows on their faces. Their conversation meandered from light-hearted memories to musings about their future. Emma's laughter rang out, warm and bright, but the encroaching darkness seemed to drink it in, leaving the air heavy once more. "I need to stretch my legs," Jake said abruptly, brushing ash from his jeans as he stood. His voice was casual, but his sudden movement startled Emma. "Now?" she asked, glancing at the shadows just beyond the circle of firelight. There was something about the darkness that felt alive. Jake smiled at her hesitation, his confidence unwavering. "It's just a quick walk. Come on, it'll be fun." Reluctantly, Emma stood, pulling her jacket tightly around her, as though it might shield her from the unease creeping into her chest. Jake grabbed their flashlight, flicking it on with a soft click, the beam cutting through the dense black. At first, the walk felt almost routine. The trail stretched before them, its twists and turns familiar, though now shrouded in an oppressive silence. Their footsteps seemed unnaturally loud, each crunch of gravel echoing through the stillness. Emma's unease grew with every step, her eyes darting to the shadows beyond the flashlight's reach. "Let's not go far," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake didn't respond. Suddenly, he stopped so abruptly that Emma bumped into him. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice tight with alarm. Jake crouched down, the flashlight beam trembling in his hand. I think I stepped on something," he said, his voice low, almost disbelieving. Emma's heart pounded as she leaned over his shoulder. The light revealed a patch of disturbed soil, its edges uneven and haphazard, as though something, or someone, had tried to cover it quickly. Jake brushed away a layer of leaves, revealing a torn piece of fabric, frayed and dirt-stained. He paused, his breath hitching as something metallic caught the light. A buckle, or perhaps a piece of jewelry. Emma took a step back, her skin prickling with cold despite the warm night. The air around them felt heavier now, the faint tang of metal lingering on her tongue. "We need to go back," she whispered, her voice trembling as her fingers tightened around Jake's arm. Jake hesitated, his jaw clenching as if debating whether to investigate further. Finally, he nodded, his face pale in the dim light. They turned and walked quickly back to the tent, their pace hurried, their breath shallow. The forest seemed to close in around them, its silence now oppressive, almost accusatory. Back at their campsite, they crawled into their sleeping bags without a word, the unspoken tension hanging between them like a thick fog. Emma lay awake for hours, her mind replaying the image of the disturbed ground and the frayed fabric, her pulse refusing to calm. Years later, 2 years slipped by, their memories of that night buried under the rhythm of everyday life. Emma and Jake got married, bought a house, and settled into the comforting routines of suburban life. The Cascade Mountains became just another story, a distant memory tucked away in a quiet corner of their minds. But on one quiet evening, everything changed. They were lounging on the couch, the flicker of the TV casting soft light across the room. A true crime documentary played in the background, its voiceover low and somber. Emma wasn't paying much attention until a name caught her ear: Ted Bundy. Her attention sharpened as the interviewer asked Bundy about the times he had come close to being caught. "Oh, I came close once," Bundy replied, his tone disturbingly casual. "There was a couple in the woods late at night. They nearly found me." Emma's breath hitched. She turned to Jake, her heart beginning to pound. Bundy continued, his voice calm, almost amused. "I had just killed a woman and was dragging her body off the trail to bury her. Then I saw their flashlight." Jake sat up straighter, his face draining of color. "They were so close," Bundy said, a faint smile playing on his lips. "If they'd stopped, if they'd seen her body lying there, I was ready. I had a tire iron. It wouldn't have been hard." Emma's hands began to tremble. "Jake," she whispered, her voice cracking. "That night, it was him." Jake didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fabric, the metallic glint, the disturbed ground, it all made sense now. They had stumbled upon one of Bundy's burial sites, and he had been there, watching them, ready to strike. Had they lingered, had they questioned what lay beneath the soil, their story might have ended right there in the forest. Haunting memories. From that moment on, the forest they had once loved became a source of unease, its towering trees now looming like silent witnesses to their brush with death. The Cascades were no longer a symbol of peace and freedom. Instead, they were a chilling reminder of how fragile life could be, and how close darkness had come to swallowing them whole. Hey, mystery hunters. If you enjoyed unraveling today's mystery, don't forget to show some love by hitting that like button. It really helps us keep the adventures coming. Got your own theories or thoughts about today's topic? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, don't keep all the fun to yourself. Share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who loves a good mystery. Finally, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Mystery Mug and click that notification bell so you never miss out on our next intriguing story. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next mystery.